All right, let's head straight to the markets now. Starting with the African continent, we're seeing red on the screen, but the NGX still looking good. 109,000 still held, but just by 46 points. Quite slim at this point, but could that flip by the end of trade today? Maybe. GSE All-Share Index, that's 91,776 points, down 0.75%. Other markets we track in North Africa for the EGX 30, we see that's marginally down by 0.02%. Then the Nairobi Stock Exchange for the previous close, that was up a big 1.96%, almost 2%. Quite a big jump there. All right, let's get a check on what's playing out with the markets here. Joining us to unpack this, we have Abiodun Adedotun, the equity trader, First Securities broker. It's great to have you on the show.
Oh, good to be here, Vladi.
Yeah, fantastic. I don't know if you have the inflation data yet. I know I don't have it. Do you have it? Is it out?
No.
No, it's not out.
No.
All right.
It.
Yeah, we're still all waiting for that. I guess maybe it might come at the close of trade today. But talk to me about your expectations and how you're seeing traders, trade around this inflation numbers coming.
Not so much is expected to differ from where it is, the current 24 levels. Of course, you've seen that things are a bit moderated, especially in food prices space. So you not really expect so much. And I don't think that gave room, right? I don't think, because the ultimate aim of these inflation numbers is what the decision of policymakers would be, or what the direction would be in terms of interest rates, and I don't think there should be more difference from what we are experiencing currently.
Right, so I guess, next week we'll definitely get the latest cost of borrowing. That's from the MPC. Yeah. But are you seeing any change at all, or it's still going to be a hold?
I would still stick with a hold. Of course, it takes time for all these tightening to really get across the economy, and I believe that they will be watching closely. So I expect the decision to be data driven, and I don't think anything should change at the next meeting.
Yeah, and we know the MPC members will be waiting for that data that's talking about inflation, and I'm sure they're also going to be thinking about that the naira and what's playing out in the FX market. But definitely, do you think investors, really care right now about, what's happening with the MPC?
Of course, it plays a lot in the investor's head. You understand, interest rates continue to remain high, and investors would rather stick to the less risky asset and take a little bit of risk. Of course, you know that there is always a negative correlation between high interest rates and what you expect risky assets such as equities, to do. So I think investors will continue to play more in the fixed income space until,
Yeah, we'll definitely be watching out for that. And so much, definitely that investors have to watch out for what's playing out in the geopolitical space. But Abiodun, I don't know if you can hear me. Hello, Abiodun. Okay, yeah, we'll try and get the... Okay, Abiodun, can you hear me now? Fantastic, but I was getting a little disruption there. I think there's a phone.
Ja, aber die machen sowieso erst die Marktübersicht an der Tafel.
I think there's a phone, vibrating, where you are. You can lift that up, at some point, so it doesn't disturb our flow here. But let's look at the sectors now. What are you seeing right now playing out in the market? What sectors are getting the focus of investors right now at intraday?
Yeah, the banks, of course, high interest rates, they're making still a kill, based on the decent interest margins. Banks will continue to thrive in this type of environment, even though it's difficult, for other where purchasing power is being significantly impacted. The banks, of course, they are still the leading this thing. We've seen a bit of, reversal in telcos, MTN specifically, you understand. They go back to profitability based on the Q1. We expect the trend to continue, and this is basically because of the tariff hike and, of course, more importantly, the stable exchange rate regime. But the jury is still out there on what how they intend to plug the hole currently in the balance sheet. In terms of the consumer goods, we've seen that also they've turned a corner, but the volumes you'd expect them to drive appears to have shrunk, and maybe going forward, right, they might be able to get some as purchasing power continues to increase, and as interest rate, FX rates continue to remain stable.
All right. What about consumer goods counter? We've been seeing some bullish sentiment there for a while now. What's driving sentiment there?
Of course, they've turned the corner basically. We've seen the big boys, the Nestle, the Nigerian breweries. You understand? They're posting decent numbers in terms of Q1, and we know what the narratives for 2024 was. FX was a big pain, and that problem appears to not be there as a Q1, and we don't expect it, to resurface. I think the government and central bank will continue to manage it effectively.
And talking about some specific stocks now, Beta Glass, that one has had quite a run so far. Why are investors so bullish on that stock?
Interesting. Beta Glass has always been a very, very stable company. Decent numbers over the year in, year out. But investors are beginning to realize the value in this company. But one challenge there is that the float is very, very minimal. You don't get so much, to be able to trade. So with little volumes, it's basically the law of demand and supply. So everybody trying to rush into very, very limited supply, and that's what has driven it here. A month ago, 2 months ago, we had told me that it's going to be at.
Yeah, I'm sure most analysts didn't expect this kind of bullish run, maybe according to Adedotu there. But I think you got frozen there again, having some network issues. But thank you so much. That was Abiodun Adedotu, the equity trader at First Securities Brokers, bringing us up to speed on what's playing out with most of the markets, and mostly that's for the local bourse right here. All right, let's get a check on Middle Eastern markets now. We're seeing green on the screen there with the UAE, Dubai index 0.69% up, Abu Dhabi index, that's a marginal gain of 0.07%. Other markets we track there in Saudi Arabia and Qatar. We see the Tadawul there down. On the flip side, 0.55%. The Qatari index, that's down 0.18% at 10,574 points. And we take it over to the stock futures now. The dip today following a 3-day winning streak for the S&P 500, driven by optimism that the U.S. and China agreed to temporarily pause their tariff dispute there. But we're seeing there for the future 0.37% weakness all through there. The biggest drop, we see the tech-heavy NASDAQ at 21,250 points, down 0.66%. So we're seeing most of those gains, recoveries we saw in the market there being wiped up. But who knows, this might flip when trading fully starts. And for Asia now, we see Asia-Pacific markets mostly fell today, breaking ranks with Wall Street, and investors assess U.S.-China trade developments there. It was also green in Asia the past couple of days, but now 0.98% pullback for the Nikkei. Kospi down 0.73%, the Hang Seng Index down 0.79%. Let's get a check on other parts there. Just the Nifty 50 holding up there, 1.60% jump, 25,062 points there for the close in Asia. So it's not looking so good for most of the markets that we track in Asia.